I call the Sweet series New Arrivals because, generally speaking, the beers that I do in them are new into the shop that I work at, and therefore new to me. They're my first impressions of them. But I thought I'd do something a wee bit different today, because last week at the shop we had the well-anticipated return of an old favourite of mine, a beer that I absolutely adore. So I thought it'd be a good idea to do it on this. It's a absolute highlight of the beer world for me. It's a genuine top 3 beer. I absolutely adore this stuff. Allow me to introduce you to Aventinus Eisbock from Schneider, or Aventinus, or however you want to pronounce it. This is glorious stuff. It's a 12% Eisbock, so it's a stronger Weizenbock. And the style Eisbock is one that requires a freezing process. Literally, the beer is frozen. It's taken to between 0, which is the point at which water freezes, and about -90, which is roughly where alcohol freezes. Take it to between that, you essentially separate out the water. The water will freeze, the alcohol will not. You get rid of the water, and that essentially concentrates up the beer, it undilutes it, and makes it richer and stronger and more intense. That's what they've done with this one. The style, how it originated, there's a couple of competing legends as to how Eisbock first came about. The story I like is that a German brewery sent a beer very similar to this over to Russia, went through the Siberian Ocean, and on the voyage, that's when it froze. The Russians opened up the barrels, chucked the ice away, drank what was left, and sent a letter back to the Germans asking for more of that really strong beer you sent us. The Germans were obviously a bit confused, said, "We just sent you the normal stuff," figured out what was going on, and realised it was rather tasty. And the other competing story is that some young ruffian who works in a bar or a brewery in Germany left some barrels outside in the winter when it got cold and froze, and that's how they discovered it. Either way, it's a style that, by tradition, has been developed by accident, and the stories that I like. It's gorgeous stuff. I always think it tastes like nothing else on earth, because at its heart it's a strong dark wheat beer, which is relatively unusual anyway. And then it's freeze distilled and made amazing. I adore this stuff, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you. So in order to do that, I've got a rather special glass. This is the oldest glass I own. It's an unknowably ancient Rochefort glass. But it's the sort of thing that tends to work well with dark, murky, complex continental beers like this one. So, let's see. Okay. So you see, it does pour rather dark. In fact, it looks quite a lot like a quad or an abt, strong kind of Belgian dark ale. But of course it does hail from Germany, this one. It's just the most beautiful thing in the world. It really is. I've left a little bit of sediment in there, and I will come back to that, because the sediment is actually, it can help improve the beer from experience. But let's have a little sniff and see what we get. Yeah. It's incredible, this stuff. Immediately you're hit with a kind of sweet, fruity nose. But then there's spice in there. There's particularly cloves. There's a wee bit of cinnamon playing around in there as well. And then there's something kind of darker, something dank in the sense of like a dank cellar, as opposed to dank hops and dank shit, bro. The kind of literal definition of the word dank. It's kind of almost like an umami savouriness in there, which really sets off the sweetness quite nicely. Oh yeah. Oh man, that is good. That's really good. There's kind of caramel in there, there's toffee, and then these sweet fruits kind of come in. There's plum, there's raisins. There's almost sort of cherry in there. There's a kind of Christmas cake note to it. It's quite effervescent as well, as you might see when it's 12%, which generally speaking can affect head retention. But this stuff's actually, it's still got a wee bit of foam on there, and it's still slightly frothy in the mouth, but not overly frothy. as particularly Belgian beers can often be at this strength. Yeah, it's sweet, but again, there's a hint of savouriness in there that just offsets it. It stops it becoming cloying and difficult to drink. It makes it easier. It's really nice. What I'm going to do is add a wee bit of this sediment, because from experience, this doesn't often work with beers, I find. Lots of people do this mix around the sediment and plop it in thing and think it works, and rarely I find it does. Certainly with stuff like Kernels IPAs, I've seen it done, and I in my opinion, it doesn't add much. But it does, for me, add a wee bit to Aventinus Eisbock. You can see that. Quite a visible effect there. I find it tends to make it taste even richer, even more concentrated. I'm not sure if that comes across. You can just about see there, actually. You can see a wee gradient, a kind of colour gradient, lighter at the top and darker at the bottom. That's because the sediment there is still getting mixed through, but it's definitely become murkier, more opaque since adding all the delicious slush from the bottom. So I'll just give it a swirl around to let it kind of get through the beer properly. Obviously, having done that, the last thing I want to do is gulp it all off in one mouthful and leave the rest of the beer unaffected. That should be enough. Cool, let's see what we get. Oh. Yeah. And now, the thing that perpetually amazes me about this beer is how smooth it is, how easy drinking, how unaggressive, what a lack of aggression, I should say, there is. It's remarkable. You've got those almost prune-like characters. I don't even like prunes, but that nose there, that plummy nose there, the dried fruits, raisins and sultanas. But there's a wee bit of cocoa powder in there. There's a little bit of kind of espresso as well. Like I say, it's a bit effervescent. There's almost a kind of walnut character, and again, I think that might be linked back to the kind of umami note that's in there. And then adding the yeast brings forward another character that I've always liked, which is the fact that it tastes and smells alive in a really, really unique way. It's the sort of beer that has all these weird esters coming off that can only be made by some batshit crazy yeast going on in there. It's fascinating, and it gives it that uniqueness that I really, really love about this beer. There is nothing else on earth like this, apart from the base beer, Aventinus Tap 6, that it comes from. But even then, that does not have this richness, this intensity. And it doesn't have the balance either, I think. It's certainly a nicely balanced beer, but it doesn't have this kind of exquisite poise. This is glorious stuff. I really do love it. And now, what on earth is that I'm getting in there? There's something... Grenadine syrup. No, I'm starting to get notes of. And then there's like bitter orange and orange peel as well, which works nicely with that kind of Christmas cake character. It's absolutely superb. It's stupendous. For as long as I'm working in shops, this is a beer I'm going to demand that we sell, because it's absolutely glorious, and I wouldn't want to go too long without having. Actually, no, that's a lie. I like having this with maybe 6 months gap in between. It's a treat. It's something that needs to stay special for me. But at the same time, I wouldn't want to not sell this. It's gorgeous and glorious and beautiful beyond belief. And with that, I shall say adieu, and I will catch you on the next video. Cheers.